I think we can all agree that we learned a fair amount from the Lakers preseason press conference, with Rob Pelinka and JJ Redick talking about health updates, player performance, and much more. We got an inside look about their game plan heading into this season. And although a big emphasis was put on guys like D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, LeBron James of course, his son Bronny, and even Christian Koloko, another pretty big emphasis was put on a third-year guard Max Christie. Who, although doesn't get talked about very much, they implied pretty heavily that he'll be taking on a much larger role for the team this season, even kind of hinting that he'll be a breakout player for their team this season. And it might not be as far-fetched as you might think. And if you didn't watch the press conference, then you likely haven't heard about it, as it's not been brought up as a big topic, not been mentioned by the widestream media or even by Laker fan accounts, kind of been brushed to the side and not been talked about very much again. But I'm here to tell you that they definitely did prioritize him and made him a pretty big deal throughout their press conference. And here's about a minute word clip about them talking about him, why they prioritized bringing him back so heavily, and his role on the team this season, even with him being a part of JJ Redick's quote-unquote vision.
You guys came to agreement with Max Christie on a long-term deal pretty early in the free agency process. What did you see over his first couple of seasons that made you guys comfortable giving him that contract, and what was the expectations for him this season after being in and out of the rotation this first couple of years?
A lot of it had to do with JJ's vision for how this team's going to play. Some of the things he's talked about, which are supported by sort of our data science team and the coaches upstairs have been vigorously going through, is making adjustments to things like corner crashing and trying to win the extra possession game. I think Max Christie is sort of the prototype player of a 3-and-D wing that can defend, pick up with pressure full court, which is another thing JJ's talked about in his system. He can make corner threes, I think, at a high clip, and he's very long and athletic, and so I think he will be a guy that's going to help us win the extra possession game by crashing. So just the way he played, the way he's built, really aligned with JJ's philosophy. And then just his character. He's in the gym every day. He is probably one of the hardest workers on our team. And so those are things we're going to lean into when we choose people that are going to be part of our program.
I would add to that, I think to win now in today's NBA, you need 7 or 8 players that really impact winning, and that doesn't mean 7 or 8 superstars that need the ball in their hands. Max Christie is going to be a guy in his career who has a high level of impact winning for a lot of those reasons that Rob talked about, and he's been fully bought in to all of the player development stuff.
Definitely a lot to unpack there, but I think we can all agree that Christie will be a key player for their team and rotation this season. I mean, with Rob Pelinka saying things like, a lot of it had to do with JJ's vision about how this team is going to play. When referring to bringing back Max Christie, that's a pretty big hint that Christie will be a big part of their team, and definitely a good sign when the head coach himself is making a player a priority, let alone a 21-year-old player that has plenty of potential like him. Another thing that Pelinka mentioned is that if Christie fits their vision for the adjustments they're trying to make. He talked about stuff like corner crashing, which they referred to quite a bit throughout this entire press conference, and with Christie being a very good rebounding guard, that's yet another thing he fits into with their team. Definitely with that rebounding and corner crashing offensive identity, with him playing in the corner and wing primarily on offense, that's a really good spot for Christie to do that in, having the perfect angle to corner crash, and then definitely being athletic enough to get offensive rebounds. And then with Christie being referred to as the prototype player of a 3-and-D wing by Rob Pelinka himself, that's yet another sign that he aligns with what Redick wants to do, and his overall philosophy. Yet another thing that JJ Redick referred to and Rob Pelinka referred to as well. And overall with his defense, 3-point shooting, being long and athletic, and overall versatile, he definitely will be a key player for them and somebody that Redick definitely does try to employ within the rotation. And with Redick saying that Christie is going to be a guy that has a high level of impact winning in his career, I think that's pretty telling of the player that Redick believes that Christie can become. He mentioned the ability that Christie has in making the impact off the ball offensively, and that's something that not many guys in their team can do. Apart from D'Lo, Reeves, and Hachimura in their starting lineup, they don't have a lot of it coming off their bench, and Christie will be one of the few. And with Redick repeatedly referring to or comparing Christie with a winning style of play, you'd think that would translate to a pretty big role, even with him coming off the bench. But with that being said here, what will Christie have to do to earn the praise that has been given to him, which again has been pretty big praise? And beginning with offense, I think that he's got to maintain or improve his 3-point shooting more than anything. Again, he will be looked at to fill a bigger role, and that will come with more 3-point shooting, and he will have to remain efficient in it. Up until this point, he has shot 37.8% from 3, along with 42.1% on corner 3s so far. So pretty damn good, but on a fairly limited volume. Only has attempted 180 total 3-point shots in his 2-year NBA career, so not really that many to go off of. Definitely has done well in the shots that he has taken and converted them pretty well again, 38% about, but he will need to take more of them per game now. Likely about 3 to 4 of them per 20 minutes, and with a bigger emphasis being put on him now that Taurean Prince and Spencer Dinwiddie left their team. They were 2 of their better 3-point shooters, and definitely after the trade deadline when they got Dinwiddie, and definitely corner 3-point shooters too. And now with them no longer being on the team, that will be a role that Christie will have to help them fill. Obviously can't rely on those two anymore, so Christie will have to pick it up for them. And he will likely be viewed as that efficient 3-point shooter off the bench for them, and primarily catch and shoot guy from the corner and wing, but occasional backdoor cutting as well, and a little bit of self-creation, though probably not very much. He definitely has the ability to do it. I mean, we can't forget that he put up about 20 points per game in Summer League last year as a 20-year-old, so definitely more potential to be unlocked there, but I don't think that will come this season. Maybe later on down the road, or maybe something that Redick will pick at later in the season, but probably not early on, and definitely not a main focus of their offense. But then moving on to defense, this will be an even bigger point of emphasis for him. They don't really have a great wing defender within their starting lineup, so they'll have to get that off the bench for them. Between D'Lo, Reeves, Hachimura, they can't really fill that role. They're more offensively orientated, and that's kind of what their starting lineup is and will be about. But off the bench, they'll try to get more defense, primarily from Christie, but from other guys like Gabe Vincent, Cam Reddish, and Jared Vanderbilt when he's healthy as well. But Christie will definitely be that 3-and-D wing for them off the bench, probably being the only reliable 3-and-D option for them. Hopefully Gabe Vincent can get back to becoming that for them, but Vincent is more of a point of attack defender, not really a wing defender, so Christie might be that only guy for them. Maybe Redick can kind of fill that role for them at times again, but Christie is probably the only long-term option for them. And when Reeves or Hachimura are struggling, which might be fairly often on defense, then Christie might be viewed as the first option off the bench for them. He definitely can fill a pretty big role for them, and not really having to do too much offensively, and therefore being able to focus more on defense, unlike Reeves or Hachimura really do or will be looked at to do. Maybe Reeves a little bit, but he carries a pretty big offensive burden as well, something that Christie won't be doing. And he definitely can make an impact on defense too, being much more talented or much more effective compared to Reeves or Hachimura, and therefore will be looked at to fill a big role for them on defense. When they're matching up with talented wing players, then Christie likely will be asked to fill a bigger role for them, maybe even up to 30 plus minutes per game in certain matchups. I mean, again, if Reeves or Hachimura can't do it, or they don't want LeBron to do it, which they really don't until the fourth quarter, then Christie might be their only good option for it. With Reddish and Vincent being really volatile offensively, Christie again can fill that 3-point shooting role for them and then be a plus defender as well. And with Pelinka mentioning Christie being able to pressure and pick up full court on defense, and with that being something that Redick has talked about within his system, that could be yet another thing that makes Christie a priority within the rotation. Definitely a talented and athletic wing defender who definitely can pick up full court when asked to do it. He can defend both guards full court and even wings to bring up the ball as well. So definitely defensive versatility to be had there with Christie. And with him being a really good shot contester, he can get back within the half-court setting and take on that matchup, and not only be relied to do it within the full-court setting. So again, definitely a lot of defensive versatility in there with Christie, though he can't afford to get too foul-happy in this kind of role. With full-court aggression or picking up a player full court, that will lead to a player getting a bit foul-happy at times, and that's something that Christie cannot afford to do. Again, with him being possibly their only true 3-and-D wing, they're going to need him. He can't afford to get in foul trouble or make defensive mistakes that a young player will tend to make, and therefore not being able to be within the rotation and be relied on as well. So can't afford to get too aggressive even in a more aggressive kind of role on defense. Gotta find that happy medium between aggression and playing smart, which might be difficult for him early on, but I am fairly confident in him. And although they definitely are putting quite a bit on him here, if he can prove to be effective in that role and meet the standard that Redick is looking for from him, then that might lead to Christie becoming a part of their closing lineup and or fourth quarter lineups fairly often. Now it will of course depend on how D'Lo, Reeves, and Hachimura are playing ahead of him, and if they're playing well offensively, then they probably will be in there pretty much every game. But if even one of them is struggling, then Christie might be the better overall option. With those three, you're kind of getting more on offense and not a whole lot on defense, so if they're not bringing it, then you probably want a 3-and-D option ahead of them. A guy that can fill that catch and shoot role, but then actually fill a bigger role on defense, can be relied on to fill an individual role defending one-on-one with a talented wing or point of attack player, and then again, being able to knock down the corner three and not needing the ball in offense to be effective, which Christie definitely can do. We all know the offense runs through LeBron during the fourth quarter, and rightfully so there's not a whole lot that a guy like D'Lo, Reeves, Hachimura will get in regard to self-creation or getting the ball very much in general. So if they're not having a hot shooting game, then I think Christie could and probably should be a good option to replace them in the closing lineup. Not every game again, it will depend on the matchup and how those three are playing, but it'll definitely be tempting for Redick to turn to Christie. Overall though, I think there's a fair amount that Christie has to offer their team, and Redick definitely will look to take advantage of it too. Whether it be within their closing lineup, rotation, or simply during matchup dependent games, Christie definitely will be a big piece for him. And with that being said, what do you guys think? How do you feel about the outlook for Max Christie this season? And what are your expectations for him? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to drop a like, hit that subscribe button if you have not already, and turn on notifications so you never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.